Hey there, First Church. It's me, Josh Kingsley, and I wanted to pick up our conversation that we started last week in the Maccabees. Talk about a little bit of review, describe some of the battles that happen in the Maccabees once Judas takes over, get a little bit more in depth about what is Hanukkah, how did it start, why is it there, and then maybe wrap everything up with a little conclusion. So, just a little bit of review. We talked last week about Alexander the Great and Antiochus, who came after him. The Seleucid Empire had moved into Judea. There was a campaign to Hellenize Judea, which involved a cultural campaign, what the United States might call a campaign of hearts and minds. Temples were built, temples were desecrated, gymnasiums were built, and the culture starts to swallow up the Jewish culture of the place, and everything kind of comes to this breaking point rather when Antiochus orders that a pig be slaughtered in the temple. This is something, as I'm sure you can imagine, the Jewish community of that day was not happy about. And so when somebody actually starts to go through the process of slaughtering this pig in the temple, Mattathias, who's a priest of the temple, snaps, kills a couple of people, and immediately an uprising comes about. They go off into the countryside and they carry on a guerrilla campaign. In 1 Maccabees chapter 2, when Mattathias is dying, he notes that arrogance and strife are now the way of the land. He has this sort of mournful farewell speech, and then lists a litany of faithful people who have kept God's covenant, starting with Abraham and working his way pretty much through the greatest hits of the Old Testament. He ends by formally giving this fight to his son Judas Maccabeus. And then it says in the very next verse in chapter 3 that they're happy to pick up the fight.